without much ado, I would like to say, first of all, a very happy Women's Day, and to all our participants for this webinar, a warm welcome. At the outset, I'd also like to thank all the people who made this possible. The Empower team in particular, with all the logistics, and Ritu, who's really been at the helm of putting all of this together, and all of the chairpersons and speakers who at such short notice agreed to participate in this webinar to celebrate International Women's Day. So thank you to all of you. And to all the participants who are participating from all different corners of the globe, Norway, Europe, Asia, Nepal, India, thank you for joining us. So I would like to also introduce my co-moderator, Dr. Biraj Karmacharya, from the School of Medicine, Kathmandu University, and from Dhulikhel Hospital. The kickoff of this particular webinar, it is very appropriate because we're at the Dhulikhel Hospital that we have the Executive Director and Founder of the Dhulikhel Hospital, Professor Dr. Ram Shrestha, with us. And he's going to kick off this particular webinar with a short greeting. Professor Ram, I'm not even going to try or attempt to give a short summary of your profile or your background. You are really extremely well known in both in Nepal, but also outside of Nepal. But what I would say that really defines you is as a person who really works to bring about change. And you really want to bring about change at the grassroots level, as we can see that has happened in Dhulikhel Hospital over the last 25 years. So over to you, Professor Dr. Ram Shrestha.
Namaskar. Now I am there with you. My heartfelt congratulations to you. I am speaking from my office at Dhulikhel. This is Nepal. From Kathmandu Valley, it is just 30 kilometers northeast of Kathmandu Valley. I am here very much surprised. Today we are going to celebrate three things. One is women's issue. Another is simply global health. And the third is today is a Women's Day. And here, it is not a matter of how many people we are viewing in the screen. What matters are what are the capacity of the people wanting to participate in this short notice with us today to celebrate Women's Day. I am very fortunate to be with you today, especially therefore also because I have a very, very interesting coincidence with a women's health as a global. I want to take you just 30 years back, my small experience which turned my entire life and my thoughts and belief for the mankind. What made me today, I am today here with you. This is simply, as a medical student, knowing so little about the health, I happened to meet a young girl who was prematurely pregnant without marriage. This is a social stigma in this country at the time till today. And she was about to die because nobody cared. Forget about the baby inside the uterus. And the first I encountered was this sort of problematic. No one was there to care her because it was against the social stigma, normalities. And once I could, with the help of some friends, save her life, saving the baby, unborn baby, that changed at that moment my thoughts. Okay, I want to be there where most of the people can feel my presence. This is how this hospital was conceived and concepted. And today, as a welcome speaker, when I talk about this issue, this is small issues because I know I went through all the speakers. There are many more experience, especially I can see some very renowned faces here who will definitely tell you much more interesting their own experience, no matter how big or small experience they are. Please, let's share those views, those little problems, how we can turn into the, no matter how adversity is, into the opportunities. I personally, being a medical doctor surgeon, I think that was the incident 30 years ago, and the hospital was brought up. And today, this hospital serves more than 2.2 million populations in the remotest area, wanting to be there where most of the people need our service. Let them not come to us far away from their home. We want to get them. These are the small matter what I learned from health and the life of a young girl, and this was a turning point for me. And today we are celebrating Women's Day, at the same time also global health and empowering women. Let's talk and instigate and propagate the feeling. Together we can make a little better this world, especially in the context of gender, in the context of issues relating to women, especially in Asia, South Asia. And I think congratulations to the organizers that you have chosen, no matter how well you are prepared or not. I think you are very well prepared because all those participants within the shortest notice, I went through your paper, the beautiful, very well taught issues are there you will be dealing with today. I am very happy that I am here together with you. Congratulations once again. Do it. Whatever you can do to enhance the quality of living of the woman, because especially society in Nepal, Nepalese society, Hindu society is unfortunately yet male dominated. I know that Didi Ambika, who fought entire her life, being a young, beautiful, Newari lady, now dealing with a business, she will tell her experience. There are many experience tellers here. They have their own life experience with these issues. And thank you so much. That's all. I was given 3 minutes. I think 5 more seconds I can tell you some my experience, but I am done here. All the best, Bernadette, and let's move with small things, which will change little things, and many little things makes little bigger things. And this should be our motto today. We are celebrating Women's Day in the issue of global health. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Take care. And I'm very happy to be here with you. Goodbye. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ram, for your encouragement and for the support. And we have seen how Brigade Hospital has grown, and we hope that this will be the same for the Women in Global Health Nepal chapter, that it will grow in the years to come. So now we move forward, and as you note, the first panel that we have 3 keynote speakers. And the topic that this particular panel has is going forward, careers and life journeys. So I would now like to take the opportunity to welcome the chair of this panel, Ambika Shrestha, and Dr. Ram has already talked about her. She is a veteran. And Ambika, your shoulders are the ones that many women now and in the years to come are going to stand on. So we're very pleased that you are here and you are with us to chair this particular panel. I'm not going to go into all the details about what you have achieved, but to say that we all not only appreciate and put on record what you have achieved for women in business, a very hard sector in Nepal, but also that you are not only empowered yourself, but you continue to empower others. And this is very important for us when we have women who empower each other. So Ambika, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bernadette. Thank you very, very much, Bernadette. It's wonderful to be able to share such an issue, such a needed issue on Women's Day. And congratulations to everybody on Women's Day. Thank you. And now we have 3 speakers, and I'm very, very happy to see that we have 3 eminent speakers, very interesting speakers, because our topic is it's a career and life impacts, journeys. So first and foremost, I would like to ask our keynote speaker, Eva Turk, and she is from Norway. She is the advisory member to WGH, or the Women Global Health. And I have to say congratulations to all of you that you are going to open a chapter of Women's Global Health in Nepal, and that it will start in Dhulikhel Hospital. Congratulations, and I really, really would like to congratulate all of you. I would like to get Eva, who is our keynote speaker here, and she has, of course, she is a researcher and in digital health, and she has increased treatment and diagnosis solutions and holds a position of associate professor at the Sciences Center for Health and Technology in digital health. And she has a lot of health. She's a PhD in health sciences, MBA in health. So also, again, she's a board member of European Health Management Association, and she is just now the Polyclinic Foreign Health and Expert Council in the Slovenian, I can't get the others, Health Innovation Lab. Is also a public health delegation. She is the president of Professional Women Network Norway Advisory Committee, Women and Girls Summit, Africa, and WGH Norway. I have the pleasure of having Eva Turk speak to us. The floor is yours, Eva. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambika, and happy Women's Day. And I have to say, I'm very humbled to be here in such a crowd, and also to be part of this starting Women in Global Health in Nepal chapter. One of the countries that I'm in love with is really Nepal. And the last time I was there was when I did my emergency response training for the Red Cross. So I have very, very good memories with regard to Nepal. But I was asked to tell you a little bit about my journey. And my journey is obviously not a typical medical journey, as I'm not a medical doctor. But I do come from a medical family. And, you know, until I was 18, it was, I'm going to be a medical doctor. But while listening to my parents of all of the issues and challenges going on in the hospitals and the healthcare system, I was at that time decided, no, I'm not going to be a medical doctor. I'm going to be the director of the hospital in Slovenia, where I come from, in my hometown. As you know, the journey goes, I then started to study business. I did international business, and afterwards, still with the mindset of wanting to be a director of a hospital, I went to do my MBA in healthcare management. And this opened me an opportunity to start working with the World Health Organization. And I did my internship in Barcelona. And there I was working quite a lot with primary care. And it was a bilateral project with Slovenia. And then I decided, well, actually, I'm getting more and more interested in health systems. And also because healthcare management is a fairly new theme, also in Europe, but especially in Slovenia at that time, it was only a few people that had this kind of education. I decided to go back and was working and living there for the next 5 years. But this is where I saw actually the necessity for interdisciplinarity in healthcare. I was often challenged, or my thoughts were often challenged, because I got more into the systems thinking, And because I was not a medical doctor, I saw this was still an issue in Slovenia. So I know that there are a lot of things to do, but I got then an opportunity through different European projects that I was working on to come to Norway. And the plan was to stay half a year. And here we are 8 years later, me working at the university now. So instead of becoming a hospital director, I became a researcher. I work in academia and dealing a lot with now the digitalization of healthcare, how to make healthcare more person-centered, and how to use the digitalization to do so. And with this in mind is also what Women in Global Health stands for as well, is to increase the health literacy of people. So by trying to increase the digital health literacy through different projects, this is how we are trying to then contribute to a better healthcare. So this is from my side. By being a woman in this field, of course, more than 70% of health workers are women. I think my issue has been not being a medical doctor, and this is how I saw that there is still a lot of things that we need to do with regard to becoming more interdisciplinary. And I was, what I lacked in my career, I think it was having a mentor from the start. I had to be the pioneer for many things, which is on one hand good because you become stronger, but at the same time, it does take you a little bit longer. So my advice for everybody would be to get as many mentors as you can as soon as possible, and just stand your ground in what you want to achieve. So that's a little bit from my side.
Thank you very, very much, Eva. That was a wonderful way of telling us of how your career started, how you started your career, and how you've come back to do this work in health, and how you are promoting women's health and working. So thank you. As we don't have that much time, I have to go for the second speaker, the second keynote speaker. And this is Samiksha Rai, and she's from, of course, Nepal. And she is the president of Nepal Young Entrepreneurs Forum. And she is the first woman or the first young lady to become the president of this chapter. And she is the co-founder of and CEO of Pack My Lunch Private Limited. It's a food service management company. So this is something which is new, and for a young lady to start doing this is wonderful. She has an MBA in Global Business Management and Leadership, Johnson and Wales University, Providence, Rhode Island, Bachelor of Commerce from Delhi University. And here I would like to now get Samiksha to speak about her way, her things coming up in her career.
Thank you, Ambikaji, and thank you everyone for giving me this platform to be here amongst all of you today. As Eva mentioned, it is very humbling to be here. But I know in the interest of time, I'm going to jump right into a little bit about myself. As my description mentions, I have a company called Pack My Lunch Private Limited. I have a co-founder, so we're both women co-founding it. We founded it in 2013, with the aim to ease lunchtime issues. So just to come back to how we got here is that ever since I was a little girl, I was always interested in doing business. I grew up in India because that's where a lot of us were sent to boarding school. So I spent the first 6 years in Nepal, and then I was in boarding school for the next 12 years in India, and then also my bachelor's from Delhi University. While we were there, I realized that, India at that time had not opened up to the rest of the world, which meant that a lot of things that we took from Nepal was very new to Indians. So that's when I got my first opportunity to do a little bit of business. I would take sweaters from Nepal because it was way cooler, and we had jeans out here that they didn't get in India back then. So my friends were always asking for it, and that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was a young girl. Moving forward, I actually then finished my bachelor's degree from Delhi University and then moved to America to do my master's. While I was there, what I realized was that I felt that I didn't have a sense of belonging, and that's why I moved back to Nepal. Having lived away for so long, always trying to explain who you are, made this decision more important for me. So when I came back, I knew I wanted to start something. And then my business partner then asked me, because we'd both studied in Delhi and we knew about the tiffin services then. So we decided to come back and we opened this company. Back then, the company's main idea was to just, provide lunches for anybody who was going to office or going to work and wanted a cheap and affordable option, but at the same time, a healthy option. Now, I say healthy because of two reasons. One is that our food in Nepal, or at least in the area that we work in right now, cannot be deemed healthy because of the fact that it's not hygienic. Now, I actually say hygienic because we're not sure where the source of water is. And it's not just about the water we're cooking with, but also the water we're cleaning our utensils with. So we decided to come along with that. And then over the years, we've actually evolved into becoming a more diverse company. And we also offer cafeteria management. So we run a few cafeterias in organizations. We do a lot of events catering. So the entire food service division of Pack My Lunch looks after various verticals. Along this while, because I'd never lived in Nepal, I always wanted to find opportunities and, to network and get to know people from the business community. Early on in my life, I realized and I understood how important networking was, and to understand how many people we needed to know just to get your footing, especially with business in its incubation period, which is why I looked out and I found NYEF. So the Nepalese Young Entrepreneurs Forum is such an organization where we're all young Nepalese under the age of 40, predominantly responsible for our businesses. So we have a major stake in that. And what we do through this is we have an ecosystem, and through that ecosystem, we're not only promoting our businesses, but we also have opportunities to learn. So when I joined NYEF, I was actually the first 11 women who actually were, involved. So in the 15 years that NYEF has been around, I'm actually the first president today. But I'm also very proud to say that now this year, we have two other women presidents who have joined us from different chapters. So one of the things that enabled and helped me along this career path is that I realized there are not many of us. And I don't know if you remember this, but Ambika ji, you were once at a mentoring session and I was there. And I remember you sharing a small story about how when you were, in your days, you could not get on a motorcycle without having people look at you, even though it was with your husband. And that's when I realized how much we take it for granted that I can now drive, I can do everything that I can, but just a few years ago, we're sharing the same space and women before us could not do that. So one of these enabling factors was that I wanted to continue that path so that this path not only becomes a trail, but then it eventually becomes a road for younger women than us. Another enabling factor is that every time I spoke about business, it was always, I have been termed, or women entrepreneurs have been termed as the low-hanging fruit, and they're always about women just doing small scale industries and things like that. But we have proof here that there are women handling bigger businesses, and I hope that one day that's where my business will go. I haven't actually changed work sector since I started. So I've been involved with this company since the onset, and I plan to make sure that I stay on with it until it goes on even further. So that is pretty much how Pack My Lunch started. And through NYEF, I'm very, very happy that it has allowed me this opportunity to get on a leadership path, because this leadership is different from leadership of my organization, because now I'm not only leading people who are my age, but there are also people who are volunteering in the organization. So this has been one of the few difficult challenges with NYEF. Thank you, Ambikaji.
Thank you very, very much, Samiksha. That was great to hear all of you. All you was how you came up and how you're doing it. So all the very best to you. To our listeners, I would like to say, could you please, if you have any questions to the speakers, can you put it in the chat box so that I can then, because we don't have that much time. So thank you. Thank you, Samiksha. Now, may I ask for the next speaker, who the keynote speaker is Anuj Kapila Swami, and she's University of Essex, UK, but she is a social scientist and and trained in public health. She's a professor of public health policy, equity director, and global engagement partnership with the School of Health, Social Care, University of Essex. And her health policy, she has been working for 2 decades in the academia. And I'm not giving you the whole thing. It's a very good thing, but to save time, as we give very little time, we have many speakers. So I just would glance to it. And for those who are looking, you can read her biodata on the screen. And she's been working very hard and working very in equalities and other areas of health policy and systems, politics, and of course, governments of health, global health. And she's included in educating volumes on global health governance, commercialization of public health in India with Routledge. So she has been doing all this, and she's a passionate social justice, transforming classrooms via public engagement policies, activities. And she has a passion for long-standing associations with One People's Health Movement in India and in the UK, where she set up the Scottish chapter, and the other social societies, leadership and capacity building initiatives for researchers and practitioners in Southern Asia and the UK. She serves on the board of Health, Poverty, Action, and Gender and Rights Advisor for the Department of Reproductive Health and Research in the World Health Organization, WHO, and the founding chair of the Migrant Health South Asia Network. And she is a senior lecturer in the University of Edinburgh and Queen Mary's University. And she is the associate, and she continues her work as a senior research associate for the Global Health Governance Program and as Usher Institute of University of Edinburgh. So with that, may I ask our speaker, Dr. Anuj, to share her experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambika, and thank you. These introductions can be very tedious. They're all off these websites, but in very short, I am an academic activist and a feminist. I'm really glad to be here, and happy Women's Day to everyone. It's an honor to be amongst a very vibrant group of feminists and those working on global health issues. So I think just to share about my journey, I think my journey has to begin for, I'll probably take a step back, not about just my career, but I think the passion that I have for and the appreciation I have for women's struggles and gender inequalities in the society can date back to the stories of my birth when I was born in Punjab in India because my dad had a traveling job. He's the doctor, and I recall the stories being told to me about when I was born. the neighbors, I mean, and also people in the armed forces where my dad was, came and expressed condolence to my parents, who were very excited at my birth. They expressed condolence because I was the second girl child and at the time born in Punjab. I mean, even though I don't come from Punjab, I'm from the hills, from Uttarakhand. So I think I have been very conscious of these women's rights struggles from very beginning, and that's why I want to start with acknowledging how that also has shaped where I am today, and why I took to feminism so quickly. Growing up in Delhi, I had started engaging in work with the feminist and women's rights organizations working on health policies. So I think in the last 2.5 decades, my foundations have been very solid. I was very fortunate to be at the cusp or at the intersections of 3 social movements at the time. The feminist movement, and I see myself as a product of that, as well as an emerging health movement in the form of the People's Health Movement. I was at the inception of the launch of this massive global People's Health Movement fighting for this, for equality and the right to health for all, way back in 2000 at the inception in Bangladesh. And also a third movement, which is fairly nascent and emerging, which was the sexuality rights movement and queer movement. And I think that the intersections of these has laid the foundations for my engagement with health politics, equity from a gender and intersectional lens. I worked in the first decade in India on health rights and health policy issues, looking at the impact of health policies on women's health, women's rights, from policy-related questions around the coercive population control and how it's impacting on women as well as on gender equality, but also looking at other issues with regards to assisted reproductive technologies, hazardous contraceptives, and impact on women's health issues. And it was that engagement with both the health rights movement as well as the women's movement that my curiosity and inquisitiveness around policy, public policy, and impact on health and rights issues pushed me and really drove me to undertake a PhD and really paved the way for the second decade of my engagement in the UK. So I went to Edinburgh to do a PhD in public health, in global public health and development, and focusing on public-private partnerships and impact on HIV and AIDS and the more social movements. And my work with People's Health Movement continued. I established the People's Health Movement Scottish chapter in Scotland. And this was the time where we were seeing massive austerity being rolled out in the UK and looking at the impact on social inequities there. And that led us to work through participatory movement and mobilize communities to advocate for the right to health for all. And since, and rest is history, I then established myself and consolidated my academic learnings, continuing to work with the civil societies, with the development sector in the UK, as well as in South Asia more broadly. And more recently set up the Migration Health South Asia and UK network. Again, as other speakers have already identified, I have felt that there is a lack of mentorship, but also in academia, within this sort of very neoliberal academic institutions, very patriarchal wide, as well as with a colonial mindset. It's been a different struggle in the UK around aspects of questioning aspects of privilege and social exclusion, and looking at how opportunities for growth can be more equal for women and other communities which are historically marginalized. So I feel in the process that I was conscious of there not being enough mentors, there not being enough opportunities for early career academics, early career researchers and practitioners, not only in the global south, but also in the global north. So, and that really made me established the Migration Health South Asia Network, partly to disrupt the mainstream discourses around migration health, which are very Eurocentric, but also to strengthen capacities, learn and establish a vibrant community of networks that can collaboratively bring attention to gender, intersectional inequalities when we look at the migration health debate. So I'll end there. I did have to reflect on what issues can be, what is one message. I feel there are several messages, and I'm sure there'll be through the day, you'll hear from others. But I do feel the two mantras, one, the feminist mantra of personal is political, that I want to emphasize on, and also how political needs to be personalized. So inequalities everywhere are injustices that we need to stand up for. And the second is conviction and being true to yourself and believing in yourself. We constantly, our feminist values, our ethos are in conflict with the wider neoliberal environment that we are working in today. But the spirit of solidarity, spirit of collectiveness is, I feel, critical to whatever endeavors and the success we have in those endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anuj. That was wonderful to hear all of you. Three of you, you've spoken about the careers, how you started and what has made you do things. And especially for everybody, all the listeners, I don't think there are many, I don't see a chat question as yet, but I think later it might turn up. But for the present, I would really like to thank all three of them, and for you, because you've started the day, this global women's global health chapter. You are beginning it with your experiences and how that has helped you to work on health, and how this is so important. And especially you have gone into this factor of being a woman and how a woman has been looked down on, and how we still have to work on trying to get how we can get into the time where women are not looked down on and not as something, as you said, that is the situation, I think, in most of our Eastern places. The son is needed, and the son is the most important when he's born. When a daughter is born, they don't really appreciate. While on the other hand, it's the daughter who is so important. And what we are seeing now is the daughter who takes care of the parents more than the son does when the parents were old. So that is one of the things that our people have to learn, and also to learn that helping a woman and making her really do things will help the society, will help everyone to do things properly. And number one, the health of the woman is something that is so important. Yes, I can see Bernadette looking at the time, I know. But I think I would like to say thank you to all my speakers. It's wonderful to start the whole session with this, which is the careers that have come up and what made them turn into this and what they thought about health and why it is important for a woman and health. Because everybody who's listening, without health, nothing can happen. No one, a man or a woman, if you are not healthy, if you have something illness, you do not move, you cannot do anything. So health is number one. And that is why with women especially, that is needed so badly, because that is neglected, especially in our countries. The woman, where they eat the last, I'm the general. Now, of course, it's changing. But if you go to the villages, you will find it's the men and the children who are fed first, while the woman comes last. And when it comes to her turn, maybe there's no food left for her. And she eats what is, scrapes things out for and eats. So her health is never taken care of. And she doesn't know of that herself. So I think that is where we really need to work and to empower. What we've seen just now and what you've heard is that each one needs to be empowered. She has to be confident in what she's doing. And when you are confident and when you are empowered with yourself, I think that is when you can move ahead and face every situation that is in front of you. Thank you very much, Bernadette. Thank you for having me as a chair here. And thank you for the wonderful speakers I got. three young people, all three young people, to lead and to do things for the future and for the health of women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambika. Greatly appreciate your chairing this panel, and also a warm applause to all our speakers today who have really set this meeting off on the right note. And as we know, when women walk, it's not only about women walking, but it's about walking hand in hand with the other 50% of the globe, and that is the men. So when we talk about women marching ahead, we also need to have the men marching with us. And I'm very pleased that the next speaker is a man who leads an organization which is called the Global Education and Leadership Foundation. He's also the vice chairman of the Sun Group, Shiv Khemka, and he's here to greet women on International Women's Day. And TGLF is also one of the co-organizers of this webinar. So Shiv, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ritu and Bernadette. Ambika ji, thank you for your wonderful comments. And Eva, Samiksha, Dr. Anuj, I was really moved by all your comments. Ambika ji, I won't 100% agree with what you said. I think women historically for thousands of years have had a very powerful place in Indian society, Indian mythology, in Eastern culture. And I, for example, deeply believe that I am the result of a very strong woman in my life, my mother, my grandmother, who was a very strong woman, my wife, who's an extremely strong Nepalese woman, Urvashi, her mother, who's an extremely strong woman who's lived in Nepal for many years, my three daughters, who are extremely strong women. So I must say, I've realized a long time ago who the stronger sex is, and I'm deeply grateful to be surrounded by powerful role models and women. I think that health is critical. I do think that what you're doing is wonderful, all of you, for women in global health in Norway. Congratulations. I have a strong connection with Norway because my roommate is from Norway, my first roommate at Brown University, and I studied with Samiksha, in Providence also, so I know Providence as well, Samiksha, so another connection there. I'm delighted that a chapter is opening in Kathmandu, and that Nepal is being brought into the fold to help lead the global movement of women in global health. And our experience as a foundation, many years ago, we were very honored and privileged to help start Public Health Foundation of India, which is a large foundation in India focused on public health. We have done a lot as a foundation, led again by my mother and before her by my grandmother, on health in India, working in Nabha, where our family is from, and in Bihar, in Kehelgaon. We've done a lot of work in health, women's health particularly, because we actually believe that women's health is the key to all health, because the woman is critical in the education of her children, of the whole household. Water, sanitation, hygiene issues are very important, education issues, and gender equality. Now, I'm not saying everything is perfect by any means, and there are many, many very backward-looking, people, unfortunately, in many of our countries all over the world. And I think we need to all put our shoulder behind really creating much more gender equality on the planet. And I think the root of that is really values, the values of ethics, the values of real leadership, which is inclusive, which is compassionate, which is kind, which includes all living creatures, not just human beings. It includes our nature, it includes plants, vegetables, the rivers. It's a mindset of compassion that we need to bring, a certain set of values. It's also a value set of altruism that cares about others and looks at everyone in a certain way. Sadly, when we look at the world today and we see quite the mess that it's become in terms of pollution, the oceans being full of plastic, glaciers melting, climate change, and so on, we haven't done a very good job in the last few hundred years, even though science has given us lots of tools and technology to do that. But I think our education has been lacking because it's been education with a small e. It's been an education, honestly, devoid of values. It's been an education focused purely on material growth, which has been good for many of us. For 8% of the planet that has 83% of the planet's wealth, it's been good. But for everyone else, I still wonder whether it's really been equitable growth. And I think we need to do much more to bring equitable growth into our culture and into the framework of economic growth on the planet. Our foundation has worked towards doing this by creating a curriculum for ethical altruistic leadership, which is all about values at schools. It's a curriculum that now reaches 3 million kids in 14 countries. Our target is 100 million kids. And I think that it's all about becoming aware of the barriers that exist and then trying to overcome them. And these barriers start at the level of the individual and the interpersonal. And these are cultural things that we need to change. And we need to create a sense of empowerment. And I must say much more has to be done for gender empowerment, for women, and for other groups that feel disempowered. But beyond that, I think it's also about institutional factors and institutional barriers, community, social genders and norms, and then, of course, public policy at the highest level. So I think all these things need to be dealt with. And I know that all of you are doing incredible work. And so I'm very honored and delighted to be part of this. I congratulate all of you on this first step in Nepal. But I know Nepal has already done a lot of work in public health. I was there after the earthquake and spent some time up in Sindhupalchok with my family working, and I could see how much work was being done, by the women to rehabilitate their societies, and then, using the men to help them do it as well. So I would just like to say that this is something that our foundation is fully behind. We deeply believe in it. Happy International Women's Day. As my daughters keep reminding me, every day is Women's Day. Today is just the announcement of Women's Day, but really every day is Women's Day. And so we are very much there to support and help in every way we can. And I once again congratulate you all for this wonderful an opportunity to listen to all of you and to learn from all of you and to be part of this in a small way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shiv, and especially for joining us at this very important occasion. And as you said, it's not only celebrating today, but it's celebrating every day. Thank you. And we move on now to panel number 2. And my co-moderator, Dr. Biraj, will introduce the chairperson of this panel.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to announce the chairperson of the next exciting round for today. We have Ingibo K. Howardson, who is a management and communication specialist with over 25 years of experience from the international development and research sectors. I think she really embodies the spirit of multidisciplinarity and multisectorality with her extensive background and work in the field of global health, peace, and also conflict analysis. I'm sure that we will be having a very exciting session ahead. And I'm also looking forward to a more concrete partnership with her and her team, and also the speakers in coming days in helping establish the Women in Global Health chapter in Nepal. So over to you, Ingibo Howardson.
Thanks, Biraj, for the nice introduction. Happy to meet you too. And happy International Women's Day to you all. Women in Global Health Norway was established in 2018, and its secretariat is hosted by the University of Oslo. Today, we have more than 350 members in our movement nationally from academia, public and private sectors. And several of you have met and you will meet during our time together today. Norway has strong ties to Nepal. Indeed, the University of Oslo has strong ties. And I'm so excited and very happy to have Women in Global Health Norway close its ties with this new Nepalese chapter. Very happy for it and look forward to many more exchanges as we move ahead. Now, I'm also extremely excited to lead this very exquisite panel who will share their experiences and taking the gender agenda forward. And they come from a variety of backgrounds. As COVID-19 has shown us that the health is above and beyond the health sector, and that intersectorial collaboration is not only a matter of choice, but actually indeed the only way forward to move out of our silos and work together. So this panel represents women from the medical sector, from the security and policy sector, and from the hospitality sector. And we will address the inspiration and motivation behind the journey to getting where they are now. Should we get the PowerPoint up, perhaps, for our first speaker? Lamo Yangshan Sherpa. I think there should be a PowerPoint up here, but while we're waiting for that, I could wish you a warm welcome, Lamo. You are a medical doctor by training with a PhD in epidemiology, indeed from the very institute where my office is. So that's very nice. You have an impressive track record as a senior researcher and leader of a variety of initiatives and programs globally. Let's see, I think the PowerPoint is coming up here. At the University of Oslo, in Melbourne, and at IPAS, Nepal, amongst others. And indeed, you are known to be a very passionate women's rights activist. I was planning not to read all of this out loud, but I hope that the slide can stay on for a while as we hear you reflect on your journey and share your story with us. Please, Lamo, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ingeborg. Thank you, Ingeborg. I'm very pleased to be here today, to be one of the, in this great platform for reducing the barriers that women have in global health. And to start off, I'm frequently asked by a lot of people why I chose to become a medical doctor and why I've continued on to become an epidemiologist. Actually, my parents have never been to school. So one thing that has always struck me is why I, even though I have no family members in the medical sector, why I chose to become a doctor. It was because when my mother was growing up in a village in Dolakha district, there was a Swiss doctor who was working in Dolakha among the Jirel indigenous community. He was there for 2 years with his family and 2 daughters. So he would conduct house-to-house visit to take care of Jirel population, and that was in the early 60s. So although she did not get a chance to pursue her studies because she was married off at the age of 16, and at 17 she already had my elder brother, what had inspired me was she frequently used to bring up the topic of that Swiss doctor. I think that led me to, that was my inspiration to become a doctor. And I'm also inspired and motivated by my supervisors, professors at the University of Oslo, at a university in Thailand, who has taught me about disability and rights, the non-communicable disease, which disproportionately affects the marginalized population, minority issues, women's issues, indigenous issues. So I've learned a lot through my professors, and I'm profoundly inspired also by the resilience of minority women who have continuously advocated for women's issues and women's rights in spite of patriarchy and caste system that intersects in our society. So these women have continuously motivated me to continue my studies, and I've also realized after having both a medical degree and a PhD, I've realized that only education will not empower women because we have structural and institutional barriers which is created by patriarchy and our caste system. So, but I'm very hopeful due to women's global movement, due to a lot of moments that are happening all over, and very inspired by adolescents like Greta Thunberg, 9-year-old girl called Lipriyak from India, who has been a source of inspiration for me, who are already at that age conscious of their rights. Because we all know that discrimination and gender disparity starts at birth and the consequences are felt later in life. So I think this is a great platform to start reducing these barriers. And I would like to congratulate everyone for starting this Women in Global Health chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. Next, we will hear from Radhika Halder. A very warm welcome to you, Radhika. You are a geopolitical intelligence analyst at MITCAT Advisory Services, MITCAT meaning Mitigating Knowledge Age Threats. And you're working on key topics related to South Asian regional security and policy questions. You're also well published, and you worked in Nepal and India for the last years. Please, welcome. We're looking forward to hearing about what motivated and inspired you in your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And it's great being here. First of all, thank you for having me. Yes, as the chair pointed out, I have been working predominantly in the space of research and academia in the security space, and have progressed now in the corporate security and corporate intelligence space as well. And so naturally, my first reaction when I was invited to speak here today for Women in Global Health was, how do I fit in as a woman in global health? But slowly I did connect the dots, and I think the background note that was shared with us put me at ease, because like I think during the panel introduction as well, the chair mentioned that it has never been more important than it is right now for intersectoral collaboration, especially so within the health sector. COVID-19 and 2020, or the past year, has been a year of revelations, not just within the health sector, but also in other disciplines. And so coming from the security discipline, I can say that for the same for that as well, because traditionally security has always focused on let's say conventional or traditional threats, whether that's terrorism or crime, or both in academia as well as in the corporate space. And COVID-19 was a reminder for the security domain as well to look at health security. Because if you think about it, security is ingrained in each and every aspect of our lives. So is health. And so being here at the intersection of both of those disciplines and perhaps representing that intersection is great for me over here today. Moving on to my inspiration and motivation, I think it's an extremely relevant panel for me to be on, because I'm still starting out. There is a lot that I need to do to get there. I have a lot of things that I've planned to achieve. And what has always been most important for me as a source of inspiration is to keep reminding myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, looking at what motivated me, what was the first instance. And for me personally, now when I look back, I realize I started off my project on understanding suicide terrorism, but I think the seed was planted when I was around 8 or 9 years old, when 9/11 happened. And we were in America at that time, because my dad basically travels and we travel with him. And at that point we were in San Francisco, and of course we weren't in New York, but I remember seeing on the TV screen, buildings just collapse because a plane has gone into the building. And I remember how my life changed as a school-going child. At that point in America, my school was shut off and the country had completely changed. And I remember thinking to myself, because I think by the age of 8 or 9, I thought all that can happen, the worst that can happen to human beings is a natural disaster, probably, not something that is man-made. Why would human beings do this to each other? Why would they create such catastrophe and damage? And so that question has somehow always been a burning question for me. And I think it has translated in the career choices I've made, and trying to, of course, I don't have the answer to that question still. I will try to devote the rest of my career as well, and trying to understand what are why do people do what they do in terms of terrorism? But then when I worked on the project on suicide terrorism, I realized that is such a small aspect of security, because it's perhaps a symptom or a consequence of several other things that are interrelated, that are perhaps emanating from challenges in governance or socio-economic inequalities, or the political situation of a country. And so slowly I read, and so when I finished that project on suicide terrorism is when I moved to Nepal. And Nepal being a country that was still, a new constitution, still trying to figure out how to implement the constitution as well as federalism. And I could see that, of course, terrorism is not a reality in Nepal, but all those ingredients, the challenges, the inefficiencies, whether it's in governance or in socio-economic inequalities or the political situation, all of the ingredients exist in this country. And that does not mean that it'll necessarily lead to terrorism in Nepal. But it was interesting for me to move out of my shell of suicide terrorism and come to an intersection of development and security. And then at the moment now, I'm working, of course, in the corporate intelligence space, where I'm looking at security from the aspect of how businesses and business continuity can be ensured. And so it's been, like I said, it's been extremely important for me to remember, because there have been moments where I don't speak for every woman probably in the security space, but personally I have felt that there is a notion, not just from men, but from some women as well, that, security is a very, let's say, morbid, especially suicide terrorism, quite a morbid topic for women.
Radhika, sorry to interrupt, but if you could please wrap it up within the next 30 seconds.
Yes, just finishing, yes. And so, so there have been moments of self-doubt and discouragement, but I've perhaps reminding myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing has always helped. And the second point was that looking at both men and women for inspiration, and security being a male-dominated space, the men, acknowledging that men have also increasingly supported us. At the moment, I'm working with an almost all female team. And so we're able to do the magic that we do because of the lovely men that have been supporting us throughout. So thank you, that's my time. And please, over to you.
Thank you, Radhika. That was very fascinating. And last but not least, I would like to welcome our third speaker. But before I do, please be reminded to post questions in the chat. If I have a minute or two at the end, I would be happy to post them. But last but not least, a very warm welcome to Monica Scheidlauer. She is an experienced leader from the hospitality industry and the general manager at the hotel Yak and Yeti in Nepal. Indeed, Monica, I had a quick look at your CV online, and you have worked in so many countries. It's quite interesting and fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm very excited to be here today and to speak in this forum. As Radhika, when I saw the agenda, I said, oh my God, I have nothing to do with global health, coming from the hospitality. But then I thought, hospitality, it has to do with travel and everything. So yeah, I think we have something to do with health, because it's always good for people to travel and see something else. I am at the Yak and Yeti, which is one of the oldest hotels in Kathmandu. Unfortunately, I am the first female general manager. So all the people or the leaders before me have been all male. There was never a lady GM in this wonderful property. So I feel very special that I can be the one who is the first one here, which is, I have to say, our owner of the hotel. He was looking for a female general manager. It was very important for him to let his hotel run now by a lady, by a female. And I thought, wow, that's wonderful, you know, that you have, especially in Asia, in this part of the world, an Indian owner who really looks for a woman that runs his hotel. And after I get to know him a little bit better, I asked him, why have you been looking for a woman and not a man? And he said, because he has the feeling that women are much more caring than a man is. And the Yak and Yeti was the first hotel which the family opened. So the hotel is very important for him. And I think it's really a privilege and great for all women that he has chosen for his property, which is the most important for him, women. Yeah, as Ingeborg said, I was working in the hospitality all my life. I actually have never done anything else. And most of the time in the hospitality, I spent in the food and beverage. And the food and beverage is, yeah, very male-dominated area. And I think this was my motivation to come where I am now, because I always wanted to prove the man that a woman can do it as well. And to be very honest, I actually never had really challenges as a woman. I had the feeling that I had to do more than anybody else, or that a man had to do. I had to prove myself much more than any of my male colleagues, I would say. Yeah, being a woman, especially after I became a mother, I heard many times that, oh, how will you do it with a child and working mother? So I found this more challenging, but I did it, and I'm very proud. And yeah, the biggest motivation was always to prove the superiors that a woman can do it. And to be very honest, this morning, when I opened my WhatsApps, I got so many messages from my female colleagues who said, wow, you were always an inspiration, and great, we women can do it. And I think it's just wonderful to see more women working in the hospitality in leadership positions. And today at the Women's Day, we went through our hotel and giving gifts to our women working at the hotel. And it was just fantastic to see how many more ladies we have working in the hotel than we had 3 years back. When I came 3 years back to Yak and Yeti, and I went to the locker rooms and I saw the small lady locker room, I said, wow, and where are the other women putting their clothes and changing? And they said, no, that's it. We have only a few women working here. And yeah, now we have quite some more women, and as well young women, wonderful talents. And yeah, that's the future of Nepal. So I just can say, we all have to do the same job if we want to have the same money. But I think every woman can do it.
Thanks. Thanks, Monica. And thanks to all of you. You're touching upon many interesting topics and things that all actually underscores the point of intersectoral collaboration and what I mentioned at the start of this panel in the introduction, that health is indeed above and beyond the health sector. Lama, thanks for sharing your story and what motivated and inspired you, and also pointing to the structural barriers and gender disparity, which is at the base of so many things. And Radhika pointing out or connecting security and health. And indeed, we could do an entire section the issue of health and conflict, for example, and not to talk about the alarming trend of security of health facilities, for example, in conflict, and also indeed outside of conflict, in post-conflict areas. Monica, you're underscoring the need to prove yourself more than your male colleagues, and also pointing to the challenges of being a working mother. And all of these questions are extremely important. Do I have any questions in the chat? Let me just see. No, I don't. Oh, Lamo, Bernadette, you're saying that Lamo will answer a question, but I can't find the questions. My apology.
The question is from Virendra Singh.
Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. Thanks to all the panelists for the view on women and importance of inclusive participation. I would like to hear from any of the panelists on what is lacking in global health space on inclusion of the gender agenda and how we can take it forward in Nepal. So Lamo, please, if you would like to answer that question. Any of the, Lamo, is she there? Any of the other panelists want
Sorry,
to...
my speaker was on mute. Thank
That's fine, Lamo.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ingeborg, and thank you very much, Virendra Singh Salhotra, for raising this question. I think one of the things that's very important for inclusive participation of women is to understand that women's leadership style is very different from men's leadership style. Most of the men who are in the leadership position, they want us to become more like them. They want us to become like, they want us to, have a male leadership style. But I think that women's style is different in the way that we are more compassionate, we are more caring, and we go to the bottom of the problem to solve the underlying cause. We have already seen women's leadership style and women's leadership in the COVID context. So I think men and women should understand that the leadership style is different, and I think that is lacking because they don't acknowledge the fact that women can lead as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamo. So at the end, because I think my time is up, I would like to thank Bernadette and her team, the team in Nepal, for hosting me, for having me as a chair here. I would like to thank my absolutely extraordinary panelists. So thank you. Back to you, Bernadette.
Thank you so much, Ingeborg. Greatly appreciate your being with us and chairing this panel, and to all the speakers as well. I would now like to move on very quickly. There are some questions in the chat. There's a particular question for Radhika. Please, would you mind answering it in the chat? And there are other comments as well. So we have to keep the chat going, and it's really appropriate. I think for the young people, the chat is really the way one communicates. So that's very good. I would now like to ask Ritu, who's chairing the next panel, to Ritu, if we could, and we have a greeting before Ritu is chairing the panel. The greeting is from our colleague in Norway, Lars Lien. Lars, are you with us?
I am, and thank you very much for having this opportunity to have a greeting on this great day, over Women's Day. I would like to just say a few words first. I think that International Women's Day celebrates actually women's achievements and raises awareness of the continuing mission towards gender equality. So it's a good time to be reminded that we still need to correct decades and even centuries of gender bias in medicine and medical research. Women have been actually excluded from a lot of research because of their biology. because it complicates the results, as it's often said. And this variability would mean more subjects in research and clinical trials, and therefore increasing costs. And that's very often why women have been excluded from research. And male-only studies were justified by the belief that what would work for men would also work for women. And this has been a catastrophic assumptions made by researchers for decades. Studies show that 8 out of 10 of the drugs that were removed from the US market between 1997 and 2000 were withdrawn because of side effects that occurred mainly or exclusively in women. And between 2004 and 2013, women suffered more than 2 million drug-related adverse events compared to only 1.3 by men. So we have a big discrepancy here, which is important that we continue to work on. And lack of funding for women's health remains still a big issue. According to earlier analysis from, for example, UK, less than 2.5% of publicly funded research were dedicated to reproductive health. And yet 1 in 3 of women will suffer from reproductive and gynecological health issues. When it comes to empowerment, I found a very interesting study from BMJ. They had looked at how actually women were represented in a research in the past 70 years. And they found actually that from 2005, when there was a new women that were editor-in-chief of the BMJ, there was a dramatic increase in women mentioned in research articles. So the importance of empowering women is there also in research, very important. But I would also like to say something today about the paramount importance of actually achieving these sustainable development goals. And we know that especially the first 6 months, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation. The women are the most important persons to achieve these goals. And from my perspective, it's also important that we then stress the importance of mental health to achieve these goals. And therefore we need more research, more women into research to actually work on these important issues about mental health and sustainable development goals. Because women are much more affected by mental health problems. Already from puberty, there's a 1 in 3 women that are affected by depressions, for instance. And the same comes for PTSD and anxiety. So any mental health issue will reduce the women's ability to fight poverty and hunger. And it's important that we actually then address these problems in research and empower women to work on them. And I think that to really develop good health in women's, we are very much concerned about the mental health. So there will be no development without women's, and there will be no development with good mental health among women's. Congratulations with the Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you very much for your kind greeting. There's an echo. You know, today's platform and today's event really is showcasing some of the achievements that our women speakers are talking about. And the purpose of having a section of greetings at the beginning of every panel is exactly, Lars, the way that you have summed it up. Essentially, everything that needs to be taken care of for women, around health, irrespective of gender, are essentially the tangibles that I think men and women both need a lot of help with. Our next panel really talks about empowerment. And empowerment is a section which I think, again, applies both to men and women equally. That the men are part of the journey for women is going to be showcased a little more by our women speakers in this panel, beginning with Candela. Candela Iglesias is the founder director of Alanda Health. Besides the other accolades on her in her profile, she's a strong person in the network for us to set up the platform for the Center of Global Health for Women in Nepal. And we're hoping, looking at more collaboration, tangible collaboration, in setting up this center at the Kathmandu University. With that, Candela, may I invite you to speak about some of the factors that have led to your own success in the area that you have chosen as a profession for yourself. Over to you.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you, Ritu, for that introduction. I'm so excited to be here today and at the launch of Women in Global Health Nepal chapter and to meet so many of my colleagues in Nepal. So I was asked to talk about empowerment, and of course there's many structural issues around success of women. I'm not going to focus on those. In the past 20 years, I have crossed the ocean to study my PhD at the University of My Dreams. I come from Mexico. I have started my own research group. I have reinvented myself from a biomedical researcher into a global health and epidemiology specialist. I have started one business and 2 organizations, and I have worked in many countries in the world. So for today's talk, I sort of paused and reflected on, in hindsight, what would I tell my 20-year-old self about empowerment today? So I came up with 3 things, and I hope these might be useful for some of the young people just starting their careers in global health today and listening to us, and maybe for those thinking about a career change. The 3 things that have helped me most have been, the first one is ask for what you want. So dear 20-year-old me, things are not always going to come your way. You're going to have to create your own opportunities by asking for what you want. So asking for that promotion, asking for that raise, asking for that director position, asking for that grant, and asking for that speaker slot where you want to speak at that conference. So train yourself to get comfortable with hearing no as an answer. Make a game out of it even. It only takes 1 yes out of 99 no's that you receive to take you to the next level. So just get comfortable with rejection. My second advice to my 20-year-old self is create your own. So dear 20-year-old me, are you tired of getting no for an answer now? Okay. Are you tired of not being able to do what you truly want to do in your work? Then create your own. There is no rule that says that you have to work for others. You know you would be able to take this organization in the right direction, but they won't give you the opportunity, then create your own organization. You know which product is needed to save more lives, but no one is listening, then start your own business. Do you want a speaker slot because you have important ideas to share, but no one is inviting you to that conference? Organize your own conference. Create your own. Gather a great team of people around you and colleagues around you and create your own. And for example, this conference was put together really by a fantastic team of people in such a short amount of time. So I'm so happy and honored to be here. It's a great example. And my third piece of advice is raise your voice. So dear 20-year-old me, stop waiting for permission to raise your voice. Stop waiting for others to tell you to speak up. Convince yourself that your voice matters. No one is going to tell you this. So Start small, grab a friend and challenge each other to ask smart questions at each and every single scientific conference that you go to. Raise your hand and ask a question. Speak up and share your thoughts at every meeting in your work and in your team. Ask thoughtful questions. Showcase your work. Challenge and injustice. Showcase other people's work. And whenever you waver, whenever you ask yourself if your voice really matters, whenever you ask yourself, am I going to write this piece? Am I going to write this article? Is there anyone even going to read it? If you truly have something different or important to say, please repeat as a mantra these words that I heard a long time ago from the Canadian poet Shane Coyson. This is my voice. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Thank you. Back to you, Ritu.
Thank you, Candela. We couldn't have a better way to sum up advice for youngsters who are listening to us on this panel today. And overall, we'll also have a recording of this on our networks. And I assure you, your voice will reach many more than who are logged into the event today. Simple, easy to do things, which can just be game changers every time. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Devi Kashikawa. This is the young firebrand generation, and there isn't a better representative than Devika in this panel, who's been through a lot of training and initiative and encouragement with like-minded people who have helped her develop not only her personality, but her own perspective as an individual, striving to be in the space that she is in today and looking to carve out an even stronger presence, making a difference, starting at her roots in Rajasthan and doing some amazing work. Devika, although I said she was a youngster, CEO of Dhara Shakti Foundation, and she's also been with the leadership development, with the Global Education and Leadership Foundation, and has been groomed well. Over to you, Devika. Let us hear what you have to say around empowerment and things that have enabled you be the person that you are today.
Thank you so much, Ritu, for that. I'm extremely privileged to be part of this amazing panel. At first, I thought, what am I doing here? I have no idea about global health and, such great leadership. But I'll try and do my best to try and, talk you all through what I'm up to right now. I am currently running a foundation called Dhara Shakti Foundation. How I got there really is I started out straight after my undergraduation. I completed my undergraduation in 2015 when I was 20 years old. And I started working with TGELF, which is the Global Education and Leadership Foundation. My first project at TGELF was actually in 2015. There was a devastating earthquake in Nepal at that point. And me being half Nepalese, my mother is from Nepal. So I wanted to kind of contribute in any way that I can, but I didn't find opportunities to do so. And there was TGELF, where we organized a service trip to Nepal. And we kind of stayed in rural Sindhupalchok and tried to build 2 schools at the time. So that was my first kind of introduction to the social development space. And over time, I realized that that is really my passion. I've always been interested in working in social development and entrepreneurship and the intersection of the two. I went on in working in Rajasthan, where I belong, where I've been born and brought up. And I worked with a school program. So I worked with rural government schools across Rajasthan, which required me to travel intensively in remote hinterland Rajasthan. And during that time, I got a chance to interact with so many principals and teachers across the state. But what I found very sad was that, from the 71 schools that I visited across the state, only 1 was a female principal and the rest were all male principals. And I was taken aback, because in the schools that I went to, and many of us went to, there were many women teachers, women principals, but in majority of India and the Indian subcontinent in general, there are such few women in leadership roles. And I think that really got to me, and I said, how is that possible when there are so many women teachers? How is it that nobody reaches the top? How is it that women are not at the leadership helm in educational institutions? And ever since that, I kind of went for it, and I said that I should be able to try and be a leader in our own space in a small way. It doesn't matter if you need to have high impact projects across the globe, but if you can make a difference in your own hometown, in your own state, that would also kind of go a long way. So at Dhara Shakti Foundation, currently what we do is we have a program called Spreading Smiles, which is an online program for young girls, adolescent girls across India. Hopefully next year we will take it in Nepal as well. So what we do is during the pandemic, a lot of women were facing a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of depression, because they weren't able to move out of their homes. They were locked down in their homes and they felt very isolated. Many of us are privileged to kind of be here on the internet and talk to each other, but a lot of them didn't have access to internet, to smartphones or any devices. So we provided them smartphones for them to engage with other women in the community. And we taught them life skills. We've taught them legal rights, personal finance. So, basic things like when you earn money, what do you do with it? Are you supposed to give it to your father or your brother? Or are you supposed to create a bank account and multiply it, learn how to multiply that money that you've earned? So there were a lot of those things that we are in the process of training. And we believe that that is empowerment. That is a way to teach young girls to be able to achieve their dreams. So that's a little bit of the work we're doing here. I'd like to conclude by one of my favorite quotes by Margaret Mead, which says, "Never doubt a small group of young committed individuals who can change the world." Indeed, that is the only way it ever has. And I believe that young people should kind of step up and make a difference and make their voice heard, and learn from everyone around them and contribute to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you very much. And I can see Candela smiling, because I think without hearing what you had to say in today's panel, Devika has pretty much picked up all the pointers of asking the questions, creating a niche, and engaging in work that you're passionate about. And so thank you, Devika, for sharing that with us, because there are many young women, young men who are in that space and unsure of what are the next steps. With that, I'd like to invite our next speaker for today's panel, Dr. Kunam Rishal. She is from the Kathmandu University and is a senior researcher, works on multiple projects, and has engaged with us in the past years on multiple occasions. Kunam, could I invite you to share your thoughts? And again, we're running a little behind time, and therefore, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to be a little more strict with time. Kunam, over to you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'll just take a few minutes. Yeah, just to start, what empowerment means to me is to be able to have the courage to dream and to decide for who I want to be. Because medicine was not the profession that I chose for myself, but it was journalism that I wanted to do, and it was forced to me. But later on, I decided that I decided to transition myself into a researcher and take this opportunity of being an introvert activist myself with academia and the evidence that I generate, and then the other thing is acquire skills, and I would like to thank many people behind this. Professor Johanna Sundby from University of Oslo, who really encouraged me to welcome this transition in my life from being a medical doctor, a pure clinician, to a researcher, and just a variable that changed my life. And then my life which I have really devoted for researching gender-based violence and any issues related to gender. And that variable was access to healthcare, which was inadequate, and there was women could not, access healthcare, decide to spend money for themselves, and that is why they were giving birth to preterm babies. And this particular variable changed my life forever. And till now, I am with researching gender-based violence and issues related to gender. And then my PhD supervisor, Berit Shai, and the three men in my life. My father, who always said, even if you have to go and, hit a guy, just do there, I'm behind you. The person who really appreciated and respected the female power, my husband, who really was with my decision to take up my studies, transition in my career and everything, and the 6-year-old son who always tells me, Mama, I think you should think about yourself first and only later think about me, because I'm just a little boy. But the only thing that you need to think is you yourself. So just do your work, do whatever you want to become. I think, and this is what empowerment means to me, to be able to dream, to be able to, achieve in life, to decide who I want to become. And now I can proudly introduce myself that I'm not only son or a daughter or, a parent, but I myself, Poonam, who is a researcher and who is doing research in gender-based violence. Thank you. I'll just end it here with the time.
Thank you so much, Poonam. Inspirational, and kudos to you for creating that environment around you, and therefore nurturing the next generation to also think alike and think of other women around them. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next speaker, we have Dr. Saraswati Dhungana, who's a mental health specialist with the Department of Psychiatry at the Tribhuvan University. Again, it's an entity that we work with very closely in all our public health endeavors in Nepal. Over to you, Saraswati.
Thank you, Ritu, for that kind introduction. Today, first of all, I'd like to extend my warm greetings to all from all around the world. I have been asked to talk about empowerment. So with this agenda in mind, I would say that unlike other speakers today, my journey so far has been a straightforward journey. I always wanted to become a medical doctor, so I got into medical school, and then after graduation, I joined a psychiatry residency, and then I became a psychiatrist. It has been 8 years into the journey now, and I enjoy teaching learning activities, and also I enjoy practicing psychiatry. Having said that, empowerment to me means being able to make free choices. So when I can take decisions on my life without having to ask anyone, that is what empowerment means to me. But I think with me being empowered comes the responsibility of empowering others. When I say I feel empowered, I think I have the responsibility of empowering others, and I think education is the main driving force behind empowerment. So I would say that education has to be a basic human right. Though it has been listed in the Constitution, it is still a privilege in many parts of my country. So I think irrespective of caste and creed, race and ethnicity, gender and otherwise, education should be the basic human right of any individual. As for persons who have inspired me on this journey, I'd say that there are many people, but foremost, I'd say that my mother is one of the strongest women, I would say. She is an uneducated lady into her mid-50s, but I aspire to become her. I aspire to have all the leadership qualities she has, because even being uneducated, she stood quite tall, she stood high, because she was mocked upon when she tried to send us, the daughters, to the same school as her sons. She had 5 children, 3 of them were daughters, one of them being me. And then there were neighbors, there were even some family members, there were the whole community who were against my mother for this decision. So I think my mother took this decision to send us to school, and that's why I am here today. I feel proud to being raised by this strong, independent woman. And one way in which I think we can empower others is by being genuine and being non-judgmental. I think when we do not judge people, every person, when we think of them as a different individual and unique in his or her own way, with this realization, I think we value them as a person, and then we start building rapport, and that is the forefront of communication, and that's where we start empowering people. So with this note, I'd like to say that I'm proud to be a woman, and I'd like to congratulate on all the people out there who have come to raise this very important voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saraswati. And thank you very much to all the panelists today for your inspiring guidelines, things that have worked for you, and let's say pointers that you think will also apply to others who are in the same space at different times in their life. Hugely encouraging to get your views, not only from the health point of view, but also from the reality point of view. With that, I'd like to hand over to Bernadette again. Thank you very much for providing us this platform and for engaging us in this discussion, which is extremely pertinent, whether it's on Women's Day or on any other day. But I'm glad it's given us the opportunity to have this discussion and take it forward. Over to you, Bernadette.
Thank you so much, Ritu, for chairing this panel. And also thanks to all the panelists for sharing with us your views and your experiences. So now we'll move forward. And before we have the last panel for the day, do you think we can have the poll, please, the second poll? This is just to make sure that everybody who is with us is still awake. Okay, so you can see on your screen, you are now viewing questions. Please answer the questions by clicking. So the first question is, are the key challenges regarding gender and health being tackled today? Yes, no, maybe. Please start voting now. Very good. I see that people are responding. The next question, please. I'll keep reading the questions, and then you can keep answering them. What are the main reasons these challenges are not addressed? Lack of education, lack of skills and competency, lack of sustainable funding, lack of political support, and short-term strategies and activities. The next question, question number 3. The COVID-19 pandemic has had the following consequences on the health of women. It has no effect, some effect, and not certain if it has any effect. Question number 4. Do you think gender issues have received adequate attention during the COVID-19 pandemic? Yes, no, don't know. 4 questions. Please respond to the questions. I think they're fairly easy questions. So we'll just give another 30 seconds for everybody to respond to these questions. Are people having difficulties with the poll? Are you able to respond? Okay. You just need to select. We'll give this 30 more seconds. 30 seconds more to go. Okay, can we have the polling results now, please? Can we have the results? Okay, we can't share the results yet. Okay, we'll come back to the results at the end of the meeting. We'll ask our tech team to help us with that. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the poll. And these were some really critical questions also related to our webinar today. Polling is now closed. Can we please take the polling off the screen? And yeah, now to panel 4. We're very pleased. First of all of you who are still with us, thank you so much for staying the course. And again, once again, apologies for the delays along the way. But as we say, it is only when you wait to the end that the fruit is the sweetest, or at least we hope. So panel 4 is about enabling and engaging, overcoming challenges along the way. I'm very pleased to introduce the chairperson of our channel, Jeanette Magnus, who is director of the Center for Global Health. And the Center for Global Health actually houses the Secretariat for Women in Global Health in Norway. So we're particularly pleased to have you with us, Jeanette. And Jeanette and I have worked together for many years, and Jeanette has been a really good mentor, both to me and to a lot of women who have worked in public health and others who worked in public health. So over to you, Jeanette.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to lead this. And thank you very much to all the wonderful speakers we've had so far. This has been really amazing. And for those of you who wonder why you are in a meeting of global health, I think the pandemic should have shown you, whether you work in the hospitality industry and anywhere else, that we are in this together. And no matter whether you work directly to health, but whenever things happen with health, because it is, as has been mentioned, a security threat, it's a threat to the regular life as we know it. And even though the majority of the patients and also those that have died are men, the ones that have suffered the most for related to all the initiatives and all the regulations that have come because of that is, ladies, the women. And that's why it is so exciting to hear the last group of women talking to us, because if we're thinking of all the wonderful women leaders we have heard so far today, I think the key thing that we all can take away from this is that the most important thing when you are a woman, when you are a leader, is to be genuine. The literature says so, all studies say so, that the leader who is genuinely him or herself is actually the best leader. So women, be yourself, do it your way. So without further ado, I am delighted to introduce to you the first speaker. And if we could get her presentation up, that is Vinuta Silvanus. She's the head of the Nepal Medical College, and she will now share with us some of the challenges she has had on her way and how she has overcome them. So, Dr. Vinuta, over to you. Dr. Vinuta, are you with us? If you are, please unmute. Yes, there you are, please. Can you unmute Vinuta, the coordinating group? The coordinate.
Great. Yeah, I was. Thank you so much, Jeanette. Thank you for your kind introduction. And I'm the head, associate professor and head at the community medicine department in Nepal Medical College. And well, I'm so glad to be a speaker on this eminent panel here and to be part of this discussion. Well, I was a medical graduate in the early 90s. And I think one of the first challenges that I faced was my decision to to take up post-graduation in preventive and social medicine. And all around me, everyone went, why do you want to choose preventive and social medicine? Why not a clinical branch? Why do you want to get into this field? I mean, and I'd even ask people, tell me, what kind of doctor is that? You become a medical doctor. I was the first doctor in my family, and everyone is more familiar with, being an obstetrician, or you could go on to do medicine. Why preventive and social medicine? Isn't that similar to being a social worker? Well, opting for here was something that I had my heart set on, especially during my experience as an intern. We had worked in the rural part of India for 6 months, and it really spoke to me. And this was something that I really wanted to pursue. And I was able to do that, thankfully. The next challenge that I had was choosing my thesis. So my head of department was a woman, and she was very much into spiritual health and mental health. And she suggested, why don't you look at mental health as a topic? And so when I just broached that topic and I said, okay, I'll go forward and do an epidemiological study in mental illness, and let's try to see whether we can develop a model for a community mental health program, because we had a lovely practical setup that we had, and we could look to introduce this there. Again, when I went to present my thesis proposal, it was like I had pandemonium. This was my first encounter with the stigma that is associated with mental health. And my kudos to all of our colleagues who work in mental health, because I had to persevere. My guide was frightened that she was almost saying that, Vinuta, will you go through it or will you give up? And I said, no, with her support, I said, no, we'll go forward and have that. So that was one challenge that I faced. Well, completed my MD and went on. By now I was married, and so I had to also move with my husband. And so we relocated, and I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we had moved 3 places. So I've had an experience in where I would submit an application for a job, and then by the time I would receive the reply, I was in another place. I had left that place and I'd gone to another place. And then I'd begun my family, and I wanted to complete my family, and I decided to stay at home for some time. And that was another decision that really took a lot of courage. I had to dig my heels in. I had people saying, you're a doctor, what a waste of time, what a waste of your education, and you're sitting at home. And I said, no, I want to spend some time with my children, and I'm going to stay at home. And that's probably what's made me very passionate now, especially when people refer to women, housewives, as being unemployed. And I say, no, the hardest part of my life was when I sat at home with my boys, and I had to put in the most hard work into that. And I say, so don't call housewives as unemployed. They're just not paid for a lot of hard work. The next decision I had to make was, okay, now I've spent some time with my boys, and now I want to get back to work. So the easiest opening for me was to get into academics. I could get a job as a lecturer in a private medical college. But then coming from a government medical college, government background, I still tried to get into a government organization. And that was the barrier, age barrier. You're too old. You can't get into a government job now. Okay. So, I stuck. Another option was I got a job as a coordinator for a national program. Well, I had to take an option. Do I need to be in academics because it was safer, fixed hours, good work, or do I move into something that called me for having, 15 days out of home? What do I do? How do I manage with the kids? Well, having navigated all of that, what have I learned? It's been wonderful. I'm so glad I've been in public health. what I would tell people is that I've taken that halo off, that I'm a physician, I'm a doctor. I've learned to work with people from different fields in public health. I've learned that you have to specialize, choose an area of your interest. And it's been wonderful. And I've learned to appreciate what everyone becomes. And I also learned to say no. I've learned that it's not always, that you need to say yes for everything, that you need to be particular and that you can say no. Thank you very much for having me, and happy Women's Day.
Thank you very much. Really appreciated your insight on this, and that you say that it's not only the people that are around you, but even your family that actually questions your will, your thought, and your choices. So very nice. Thank you very much. Then we move on to the next one. Dr. Miriam. Dr. Miriam Outcut is the next one. And while she talks, you can read a little about this. She's coming to us from a different perspective. And currently, she's very interesting to all of us. Because she's at the Institute for Global Health and also the Executive Director for Lancet Migration, together with Bernadette. So please, Dr. Miriam, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and happy Women's Day to everyone. Really such inspiring women that are on the panel today, and very exciting to see the Global Health chapter being formed in Nepal. So today I want to share a little bit about my journey so far in global health, and particularly I've been asked to focus on some of the challenges I have overcome along the way. But I'd also like to think a little bit about the challenges generally for women during the current pandemic, and finally look briefly at some advice for those going into or in global health at the moment. So how did I start out in this field? Well, really the passion that I have for global health and addressing the social determinants of health came about initially by spending about a year living in rural India in the north just after I'd left school, where I witnessed the lived experience of women living with great inequality due to their gender. Later, I was doing humanitarian work in a very rural part of Zambia on access to healthcare for pregnant women, and I came across multiple societal and structural barriers to women accessing even basic healthcare. And living within these diverse cultures really opened my eyes to the inequalities which exist, not only between countries, but also within countries and communities, and the poverty, injustice, and gender disparities that I saw firsthand made me determined to address these in my future career. I then focused particularly on refugee health, and this was mainly started by working in different refugee contexts, such as on the Greece-Macedonia border, when the border was first closed back in 2016, with those individuals who were directly impacted by the policy and political decisions, and their health was actually directly impacted by these in these ways. So what were some of the challenges along the way on my journey, from first of all being a medical doctor to then subsequently working full-time in global health and now refugee and migration health? Well, I actually moved full-time into academic work after 2 years of being a clinical doctor. And I did find it very challenging at the time when I was working and studying as a clinical doctor to focus on my real passions around global health and humanitarian work alongside clinical medicine. I very much felt that global health and social determinants of health were viewed as an addition to medicine, something on the side, but not fully integrated either into the curriculum in medical school or supported alongside clinical medicine. And I really felt that this was what I wanted to dedicate myself to. And in that way, I decided to change career paths and actually leave clinical medicine, move into the global health and humanitarian world. But what I've really found from that was that I needed to have the courage to change paths. It was a slightly less secure career path, and I didn't know exactly where I would end up, but I knew that it was the right thing for me. One of the other challenges I have found over the years is the need to overcome some of the structural barriers and inequalities which especially exist for women within a lot of our educational, but also our work and academic systems. I often felt that although I have a huge amount of privilege in having opportunity to be able to change my path, many women do not have that same privilege as I did. And I feel that there is a need for strong mentorship within the field of global health for other women who would like to make that change and work more in academia or humanitarian work and global health. And having moved into academia as well as humanitarian consultancy work, I now, as mentioned, the Executive Director of Lancet Migration. And through this, we really focus on building capacity at regional level, as well as giving voice to the voiceless about the right to health for all migrants, regardless of gender or legal or migratory status. I think now with COVID-19, gender equality, some of the progress has really been halted or reversed. And one of the challenges is that we need to really work very strongly to overcome gender bias, as well as addressing the social, structural, and situational factors which often exclude women, and also particularly migrant women, from health systems. So what advice would I give to those of you going into global health or working in global health to overcome the challenges? First of all, don't allow yourself to be defined by society's expectations. Choose to dedicate yourself to what you're passionate about, define your own path, work hard, and put yourself into this path fully. Don't be frightened to choose a certain path and then change your mind or make your very own path. Be compassionate towards yourself and others. And finally, take on challenges and don't be afraid to fail. If you don't try new things and test both yourself and what life has to offer, then you may never discover what you're capable of or what you have to offer fully yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This was great take-home messages, Miriam. And to just sum it up, it is the structural barriers, the social barriers there is for women. But then your call is, do not allow yourself to be defined by others. It is so important. You are you. You are not to be defined by anybody else. So thank you very much, Miriam. And if you have additional questions or comments, please put them in the chat. I'm sure that the Women in Global Health Nepal wants your questions, even though we might not address them here today. So then, without further ado, I say thank you to Miriam, and moving on to the next speaker, Dr. Sushila, who is then coming to us from Kathmandu Forestry College. So while she speaks, you read a little more from her impressive accomplishments so far. So please, Dr. Sushila, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to share congratulate all and wish International Happy Women's Day. And first to share, I'm very honored, like Whitehurst have just awarded me Selva Herb Award. Gratitude for myself working in the field and helping rural poor women and gender perspective. I'm not a doctor, though my father wanted me to become a doctor, but I've earned my doctorship through forestry. So I'm basically a forester, and there's been a lot of challenges. I think in Nepal we say or it has been said culturally that if you're born a woman, say, oh, you must have done a very bad thing in your previous life to become a woman. So, but I'm very proud. This afternoon, I was able to convey my messages why being a woman is so important in life or any field. Helping others is you're a woman, so you can help. If you're a boy, maybe not. So there are lots of challenges that overcome us, and being in a male-dominant society, the first challenge was to be accepted in that society, the culture of being patriarchal societal forestry sector. That was the first challenge that has to overcome. But then my other option was what to do. If I was not able to be a doctor, then I said, okay, let forestry do my work. Becoming a social activist was my aim, my dream to serve people. So someone from the USAID, a mentor, she said, you are such a good volunteer working in the field of health, where I volunteered for health services. She said, why not go to forestry? because that also keeps you very close to the connection to the people and the world. And I said, why not? So that challenge was taken up, and being a second batch of women in the forestry sector, lots of toss and turns, acceptance from the society of male having women in the forestry was a big challenge, but things go well if you are dedicated, if you have a passion to work for. That does not stop us to go ahead. So my learning is now being shared among those Rulapo women, where I feel pity because no one goes to them and talks to them, respects them, give them the platform to say, I am a woman, we can do it. For example, I'm working with a very poor landless women who are farmers, but they're not farmers. They're not recognized as farmers. Men are farmers. So there are lots of up and downs in our culture where we struggle, we strive, and support each other to benefit for what we are today. So with the recognition, I think this is my second international recognition. I was awarded from being in the field for almost 8 years without light and everything during the conflict period. The WWF awarded me with Women in Leadership in Conservation, which was proud moment for not only for me, for my family and my schoolmates and my friends, followers, who are true passionate lovers of conservation and dedicated for social change. So besides that, I would not say anything. I was encouraged by not only by my family, my friends, at the moment, some mentors. I would like to say thank you, especially Miss Kanchan Lama, who really helped me to be what I am today and support the family and the society. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving this opportunity. There are lots of opportunities. Let's grab it and let's not say we are pitied or vulnerable. We are not vulnerable. We are strong. We can do it. We will change. And it's only not only 16 days campaign or today's 1 day Women's Day. We always, I heard someone saying every day is Women's Day. So cheers to every day Women's Day and cheers to all the ladies. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sushila. Thank you very much. And for also reminding us that a woman can be a trailblazer for other women, and that you should not be afraid of being unconventional. So ladies, the world is your oyster. The world is your place where you can actually enjoy. And I know the next one is going to be a video clip, if I can read my screen correctly. But what I would like to say before I hand it over to Bernadette is Blessed Women's Day. And ladies, if you can't do it today, within this week, send a message to 5 women that actually have been and had an impact on you and your life, your career and your vision, just to say thank you. It could be a woman that you met years ago. It could be somebody you met yesterday. So thank you very much to Bernadette and her exemplary organizing team for giving me this opportunity and for giving us this gift on the International Women's Day today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, for chairing that session and for a very exciting panel, and to all the panelists on that panel. As I did say, you have to wait to the end to get the sweetest fruit, and I hope that all of you have really enjoyed that. Now we have come to the end of the program. Nivedha was not able to send us her video. She's traveling, but we will try to get her video and put it together with the meeting workshop report that will be on the Empower School of Health, and hopefully also the Dhulikhel Hospital website at a later stage. So we'll get her video and we'll be able to listen to what she has to share. So I would now like to ask Dr. Saroj Ojha to give us the vote of thanks. Professor Saroj, are you with us?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Bernadette. Today I found from the great personalities and great experience. It's really a great day for me also. Wish you all a happy International Women's Day. As we know that the day is observed to celebrate the spirit of the women. And today we came to know the experience from the different professions. First of all, thank you very much, organizer Women's in Global Health, for organizing this webinar and also establishing a Nepal chapter in Kathmandu University. Thank you all the chairpersons, professional, panelists, moderators, and all the participants from all over the world. Taking the gender agenda forward in global health is the appropriate theme, I think, to mark International Women's Day 2021. As we know, the theme of this year is Women's in Leadership, achieving an equal future in the COVID-19 world. And basically, especially in International Women's Day, focus on the role of the women who played a significant role during the COVID-19 pandemics, and they have been playing in the front. They have been playing in the front lines of the global health crisis as a health workers or as a caretakers, or as a community organizer, or as a innovators. And female leaders, especially the COVID-19, female leaders have been praised for their roles, especially in response to COVID-19, especially the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She was acknowledged as the most effective leader. So I must congratulate her as a female leader. It's the time to celebrate the women and their achievements. So I am a psychiatrist and a professor of psychiatry, and I should not forget to speak on mental health of women. As we know, there are various issues of women's health, like cancer, cervical cancer, breast cancer, reproductive health, maternal health, HIV, STI infections, violence against women. But mental health is one of the issues, as Professor Lars also mentions. Among the top 10 issues, mental health is one of the issues, and especially evidence suggests that women are more prone to develop anxiety and depressions, country like Nepal and low and middle income countries. And depression is the most common mental health problems, and suicide is the leading cause of death among the women also. So on this occasion, it's our responsibilities. I can see different celebrities from different professions. So it is our responsibility helping them, sensitizing them to seek the help and bringing them their confidence. So once again, thank you very much, all, especially Professor Paul, Professor Bernadette, Dr. Biraj from Kathmandu University, Dr. Suraj Thapa, my friend from Oslo University, and of course, Rituji. Thank you all. Finally, I would like to share one quotation, which I come to know today. A successful man or woman is one who can build a firm foundations with the bricks others have thrown to her or him. So this is what is the message for me and for all of us. Once again, thank you very much and happy Women's Day to all. Thank you. Over to Dr. Bernadette.
I'm now wearing my glasses, simply not to be cool, but to say that the stars that have been shining through this webinar, the light is so strong that I need my sunglasses. So thank you to all the stars in the firmament, and keep shining brightly. And here's to both strengthening one another, strengthening yourself, and taking the agenda forward. Thank you to the speakers. A special thank you to Kathmandu University. A special thank you to Dr. Biraj and his team, Shushmita, to Ritu and the Empower team, all the speakers and moderators. Thank you very much. Have a very happy Women's Day here from Nepal. Namaste.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
I'll keep my glasses on. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Your glasses are super. Thank you, Bernadette. We'll talk later.
Thank you very much, Women's Health in Norway. Thank you, TGLF. Urvashi and the team at TGLF. Thank you, KU. Thank you, Dr. Saroj and Tribhuvan. Thank you, Ambika. Thank you, all the people who have been here with us today.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. And it was great to hear everybody. That was great. Great Women's Day. And
Next time we need a whole day. So I think we'll work on that.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye from Dhulikale.